Thank you for joining us here again at Get Ready News. I'm Mark Lindsted. This is my brother David Lindsted, and we like to cover the news from a biblical viewpoint.
I think it's very important to have that constant measure that we can take things to and look and see what is truthful, what is truth, and what is not truth, and how does the Bible dictate we look at these things.
Yeah, to have that constant goal or value set. There's no my truth, there's no your truth, there is the truth, and there is not truth.
Exactly. We have, Big Ben for the time, Greenwich Mean Time, and from that everybody sets their time. The Bible is the same thing.
Sure.
The Bible is our constant, and we set ourself accordingly to the Bible.
Well, there's a lot of news this week. I know that some of us are counting down to the 20th of the month. We're ready for a change of power. In fact, it would be nice if there might be an advent calendar made for that, as it were. But, what's really going to change? We don't know. How are things going to work out? We don't know how all the people in government are going to work with Trump. I mean, we've heard several say they're going to, but what do you know?
We had that problem last time when he got in.
Yeah.
He had a lot of people that were part of the government that wouldn't cooperate with him. And I think this time he's going in with eyes wide open.
Yeah.
And I think he understands that he's got to do something to change the government in order to make changes.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't know what real change he can facilitate.
Sure.
One of the things I found very interesting, I don't know if you've looked at any of this, but there's people calling Kamala Harris to not certify the election on January 6th, and it's kind of funny, last time when Trump didn't make it president, there was all these things happening on the conservative side.
Yeah.
People were talking about, Mike Pence, don't certify the election, and don't worry, Trump's got this under control. He's got a plan. This was all planned out. They're rooting out the bad people. Well, the Democrats are doing the same thing now, and they think Kamala's going to come in at the last second and take over.
Well, it's the exact same thing where your opponent does something and you say, "Oh, that's you can't do that. That's illegal," and then you just go and do the same thing when you're in the same position.
Yep.
And I'm excited to see that Trump has said he's going to pardon a lot of the January 6th people. There's a lot of people being held for crimes that weren't committed.
Right.
There's a lot of people being held without even trials and things. There's some real violation of rights I see happening.
Absolutely. There's people being jailed that have, I think, barely a charge against them.
Yeah.
But yet they're in jail for this, and the Democrats try to raise this as an insurrection, as a mass riot when it was anything but that.
Yeah.
The thing that I find fascinating, though, is that Biden gave a medal to Liz Cheney for her work on the January 6th Commission.
What a fallacy. And here's how good Liz Cheney is.
Yeah.
She was voted out by the people who voted her in.
Yes.
Because she didn't do the right thing.
Yeah.
She was removed from office.
Censored and removed.
And it just blows my mind. We see constantly how the Democrats will reward those who go against the people, but for the party.
Yes. Yeah.
And that led up to some of our other conversations we were having earlier, and it kind of ties into where we're at with all the terrorism going on right now.
It's just everywhere. I don't know how to explain it, and well, actually, I kind of do know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's a conversation we've had for a while between us and our dad and some other people around here about all the people that are coming across the southern border and even the northern border.
Yeah.
We have a problem with the Canadian border coming in here.
Yeah. Well, I've been a staunch supporter or trumpeter of the they're just trying to bring us to our knees. The reason why the southern border is so open is because they want to bring us to our knees so that we'll bow to this one world government idea, and we'll jump on board with a borderless society. And then, of course, what happens then is your one world religion, your one world money, monetization, all that. But you know what? Dad brought up something the other day to me that really I didn't understand until he said it. I didn't think about it. And he talked about, do you think the Democrat people are that smart, or are they being used by the globalist?
There is a term used throughout history called useful idiots.
Yeah.
And it's not a slam that the person's we're not calling someone a useless person and that
No,
they're an idiot, but they don't understand what they're asking for. And a good example of that would be Gay People for Palestine.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they don't have a problem with those people protesting over here for Palestine.
Sure.
But if those people went to Palestine, they would be killed.
Yeah, they'd be, well, minimum it's 10-year sentence, right,
Yes.
for homosexuality. And so I think that, and what he said the other day really rang true is, I think that they let the people in for votes.
Mm-hmm.
They were hoping the votes were going to keep them in power, but the globalists realized that we want chaos because we want to bring America to its knees through chaos so that the globalist situation can take over.
Yep.
So we can come in and help you with this situation.
You know, I think it's called cloud and pivot.
Yeah.
Where they take and they apply pressure over here, extreme pressure of something very extreme, and then they come back over here with something that's not quite as bad, and people want to leave this extreme point and get back to some type of normalcy, so they embrace the lesser. But you're actually taking a step every time toward where they want you to go.
Well, it's the old art of the deal. You know, Trump well, some say he didn't. The book, Art of the Deal by Donald Trump, it talks about, hey, you know, if you want $50 million for your company, you better ask $300 million.
Yes.
And then when you compromise to 50, then they're happy and you got exactly what you wanted.
Exactly. And I think that's what they're doing. And I think that he's right. I think the Democrats aren't smart enough to know. So one of the things I would look at is the riots, the real riots.
Oh, yeah.
That we had all
Killed
election year,
and, man,
destroyed billions of dollars of property, killed people, and the Democrats spurred that on because it was fitting into their agenda.
Yeah, in fact, I can remember, I think it was Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer, I think for sure, said things inciting people, saying sometimes violence is necessary. Yep. And, well, man, you want to talk about somebody who's inciting a riot, that's inciting a riot. Those people should be in prison for what they did.
Exactly. And it just seems like, and I always think back to, I think it's Habakkuk, why do we see all this evil not go challenged? You know, one of the things I look at is how come Maxine Waters isn't brought up on charges on that? And why isn't it? What about Hillary Clinton? What about the Epstein list? I mean, we just keep going and going and going, and it seems like nothing ever comes of this.
Well, and look at Nancy Pelosi's trading. I think just recently she dumped a bunch of Google stock the day before the government started to sue him for something.
Yeah.
So it took a nosedive after she sold her stock, of course. Yeah. And the thing that I can think of here is that even if they do know that there's a globalist power coming, maybe they are foreseeing this and they're saying, I want to be part of the elected.
Yeah.
I want to be part of the globalist because I definitely don't want to be under their thumb. Exactly.
And you know, we kind of joking about this earlier, but I look at Herod the Great.
Yeah.
You know, he was a half Jew in charge of Bethlehem, Jerusalem, you know, and he was just a figurehead, but he did things according to what Rome wanted to keep in graces with Rome, but portrayed that he was for the Jew.
Yeah.
And I think that we kind of see that here. I think they see the writing on the wall that there's a different power out there, and they're trying to cater to that power and position themselves well, I should say.
Yeah. Well, you know, those who are going to be part of the globalist management system will be wealthy.
Yes.
Those who are not will be poor. There's no middle ground. There's not enough money for everyone to be middle class.
Yes.
There's enough money for a lot of wealthy people and a ton of poor people.
Yes, and I think we see this more evident in communist countries.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got an extension school there in Myanmar, or Burma, whatever, Yangon or Rangoon.
I prefer Burma.
Rangoon, Burma. But you know, you go to that, and people are either dirt poor, or they're very wealthy.
Yeah.
There is no in between. There is no middle.
And India is the same. India is the exact same, and I'm working right now to get a school started in India because I think that to change the situation is education, and through education I can bring in the gospel.
Yeah.
And so we can change a life by educating the child well in English because, of course, most countries, they say the money language is English.
Yep.
So we'll educate them in English, we'll educate them in Christianity, and we'll do it in a manner outside of the government purview or outside the government control. And that's our goal for this year, is to get that up and running. In fact, I was just speaking with a good brother of ours in India, and we're hopefully going to look at a building. I leave for India on Wednesday, and so hopefully we're going to look at a building that will suffice for the school to start. So it's a big way to get into a country and help.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a true help there.
Yeah.
You get in there and you give them an education, but more importantly, you give them the Bible.
Yes.
And the Bible fixes a lot of problems.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've heard it said many times that, America is really, honestly, even where we sit right now, we're probably 10 or 12 key people away from salvation to changing a nation. You think if all the real power people, the top 10, 12 power people in America, if they were truly, and I'm not talking about in lip service only, I'm talking about truly Bible-believing Christians who said, I've got to do what's morally right and what's right for the nation every time, no matter what, according to what God has for it, where would we be as a nation?
Well, I agree with that, and I think that it's been missaid, I don't know how many times, and the missaying is, if America would just repent.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think that's the key. I think the key is if the Christians would just witness.
Yes.
And spread the gospel and people would come to salvation,
Yep.
then you don't change from the outside in. Repenting as a nation is changing from the outside in.
Yeah.
You change somebody from the inside out.
Yeah.
When they receive Jesus, they want to live a different way and be a different way.
Well, I think when I hear the word repent as a nation, I don't think that's speaking of America. I think it's speaking of Israel. And we come across this a lot with this replacement theology, where people think that since Israel rejected the Messiah, that now the church has become the chosen people. And it's not. God is not done with the Jewish nation.
Not at all. In fact, the whole tribulation is for the Jewish nation.
It's to drive them to Him.
Right now, the church is being used as a jealousy item.
Yeah.
It's going to pull them back to God and they're going to realize Jesus was their Messiah.
Well, then I have people who also say, well, why would a Jew then want to be part of the bride of Christ? Why would they want to be part of the church if they could be part of the chosen people of God? Well, you look at it this way, when the church is raptured and we come into the millennial reign, the church is administration of the millennial reign. And the Jew that's raptured during the tribulation is not part of that. So the church holds a better standing in eternity than just being a chosen person of the chosen nation.
Yes, it's a better position to be in. And I would also add that anybody who is a Jew, even though the Jewish people are the chosen people, doesn't mean that you're going to heaven.
No.
Just because, they would like to bring out a verse that says, and the Jews shall be saved in the end.
Yeah.
Well, that means into the millennial kingdom.
Yeah, saved into the millennial
kingdom. They were
kingdom.
saved through the tribulation. They lived through it.
Yeah, now I don't know that I think all Jewish people will live through. I think you get the seals of breaking and the trumpets and the bowls and
millions and millions.
Billions of people dying.
Oh, yeah.
I think it starts out saying by the third, right? And then a quarter.
Yep.
So if you're at 8 billion people on Earth, roughly, and you say a third, that's what, 2.5 billion people?
Something like that.
Or is it a quarter? I'm sorry, it's a quarter first. So 2 billion, and then you're down to 6, and then it's a third.
Yep.
And so 2 more. And so it's just crazy, the amount of death.
And I think the Bible even kind of states that 2/3 of the Jews will die.
Yeah.
And who knows how many of those 2/3 are going to be ones that have found Christ, found God, and came back.
Well, and I think that they'll be given that opportunity then, if they make it through the tribulation and the millennial reign, to see a just king rule from Jerusalem. Everything will be perfect justice.
Yep.
Now, is the curse reversed at that time?
I believe so. It talks about the children picking up adders and stuff like that.
So it'll be a perfect life in a way. Sin won't be eradicated.
Correct.
It'll be a perfect life, and it's there to show you that even in a perfect world, your sinful nature will take hold of you if you are not worshiping the Savior, if you're not committed to Christ.
Exactly. And I think that's evident in in what we see today. Let's say capitalism, we'll take an example.
Yeah.
Capitalism is when people do things a certain way under certain morals and standards.
Yeah.
But as soon as you lift this moral or standard, you can cheat it.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find that no matter how good the world is, no matter how nice it is, sinful man will find a way to wreck it.
Sure. Well, I'm of the thought that capitalism is the proper way of society to function.
Yes.
If everyone agrees to play within the rules.
Exactly.
And when you start to exploit your workers in the name of profit, then you've actually gone outside of capitalism.
Exactly.
But they still want to call it capitalism. Well, it's not really. It's actually exploitation at that
Yes.
point. It's not capitalism.
And you could go the other way and say, well, in a true communist society, in a true society where we came together and we shared everything without money,
Yeah.
it would work if we weren't greedy,
If we weren't greedy.
if we weren't sinful, if we didn't want something better than the next person. I think about when this country was founded. They tried to use communism, and they tried to use it as a communal living, and you found people who knew this person would work, so they did nothing.
Yep.
And they just about starved to death because they couldn't get enough stuff made.
Well, and you think to yourself, you say, well, I'm a good person. That wouldn't be the way I would do it if they would just listen to me and live like I would live. But I'm going to tell you right now, after Thanksgiving, and you open up the refrigerator, you see there's one piece of pie left. What's your immediate thought?
Yeah.
I should eat that before anybody else gets a hold of it because I want to have a piece of pie. It's not, I should divide that up between 5 people, or, so-and-so would like this much better than I would. I mean, now as a believer, you would be thinking of other people first, but our heart, if you're truthful, our heart is to open the fridge and go, ooh, chocolate pie. I think I ought to eat that before anyone else gets to it.
Yeah, and I think that the best thing man can do is have some type of checks and balances government, which is kind of what we have here in America.
Yeah.
We have a republic.
Yes, not a democracy.
No.
It's a republic.
If it were democracy, we would have been done a long time ago.
Yeah. It's a constitutional republic. Our rights are given to us by our Creator, by not the government. Therefore, they cannot be taken away.
Exactly.
And that makes a huge difference in the way the world functions.
It sure does. And we see how other governments and socialism that's coming in actually direct that to a different way.
Sure.
And now the government is the one dispensing stuff, you know, and all of a sudden you become beholden to a government.
Well, if the government gives you your rights, the government can take you your rights.
Exactly.
And so, even talking about that, we saw the fall of Syria and al-Assad out of power.
Yep.
Now there's a religious Islamic power in there instead of a political communist Islamic power. Now it's a religious, and I think we can see the upswing of this in society. I mean, you look at the Las Vegas bomber.
Yes.
And the New Orleans drive-through, whatever, what would you call it?
Drive where you ran over people.
Ramming.
Yeah.
They both went to Fort Bragg, and the New Orleans guys, I think, had ISIS flags in his.
Oh yeah, I thought this was very interesting, and it kind of shows you where we're at in society.
Yeah.
And I was watching a news press release or whatever, and the FBI has taken over the case, and she says, we don't think this is related to terrorism, but we did find a bunch of incendiary devices in the vehicle and all these guns and
So explain to me this then: if it's not terrorism, why is the FBI taking over from the local law enforcement?
That's a good question. I think that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
A lot of people up to no good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think if I were an honest person, I would say that America has a lot of sleeper cells.
Oh yeah.
Waiting for some type of signal or whatever from whoever.
Yeah.
My first thought would be Iran.
Yeah.
But ISIS, and we need to be kind of aware of our surroundings.
Well, you look, was it in Germany they had a ramming?
Yep.
Now in New Orleans there's been a ramming. I think there was another one here in these states here recently. and sparking terror, little terror
Yep.
blorps all around the world.
And what's fascinating about the one in New Orleans is they drove into all these people that were in a common area for a market, just like in Germany.
Yeah.
It was like a Christmas market.
Yeah.
And New Orleans has these pillars that come up that stop cars from going through there. And they actually sink in the ground and they rise up whenever they're doing something.
Yeah.
And those were taken out and put in storage.
Huh. So the moment you actually needed them, they weren't available.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it makes you wonder, how did they know that?
Yeah.
And if they knew that, how did they know that?
Was it inside information or was it just by chance?
Because you would say it wasn't a spur of the moment if he had all these incendiary
Yeah.
devices in his car.
Yeah, it was planned. I guarantee it was planned. It's just like the Las Vegas guy. It was planned. In fact, he sent pictures, I think, of the rental truck to his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then I believe that the article I read said he shot himself, and then the explosion occurred.
Right. I said I think it was pretty funny, and I think you were telling me Elon said, "What a dumb place to put a bomb inside of a stainless steel bulletproof truck to explode."
Yeah,
you
if
know?
you wouldn't want to do damage, put it in like an aluminum car that has no bulletproof anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, but the mentality of these people is not up with the stars in the stratosphere, the IQ levels.
Well, if you're convinced to do that, I think there's something missing that you're trying to look to fill, if you will. The other thing I thought was interesting, I was reading this article, and it says the federal authorities, which would be the FBI,
Yeah.
think he acted alone.
Yeah.
And I find it bizarre that would be.
Sure.
For one person to be in their apartment, consumed with it. Well, where to get all the incendiary devices? Where to get all the equipment to make all this stuff?
Well, I don't trust the FBI as far as I could throw them. I mean, you look at, I think there was some guys that they got in trouble for thinking they were going to kidnap a governor of Wisconsin or Minnesota. And then it turned out that really it was a bunch of FBI guys trying to convince these guys to do it.
Oh, yeah. That's called
It was
entrapment.
the FBI's idea, and those guys said, "Oh, we'll go along with you."
Yep.
And so I tell you, all the things I'm hearing about the FBI, all the silliness coming around the JFK things, and Trump saying, if I released all of it, you wouldn't like what you had to see, and then he says, I'm going to release it this time. I'm terrified to know what all our law enforcement has done on our soil.
I find it interesting watching some of those January 6th trials.
Yeah.
That the FBI and the CIA would not mention, they would not tell if there was people in the crowd, and there was many people in the crowd that were egging people on that were absolved of any wrongdoing. And they had to bring the one guy back, Epps, I think it was.
Yeah, Epps.
Because of the demand of the public. Yeah. And just because they brought him back and gave him something doesn't mean he got something.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much government, and maybe even, I don't know, I would call it a deep state, something running the world, is planning stuff and causing things to happen, and maybe controlled resistances and stuff like that.
Well, I think that, and I could be wrong on this, but I think I heard there were over 18 FBI agents planted amongst the crowd, and most of them were supposed to report, but they saw them encouraging people to do things.
Yeah.
And I really think that the people, in my opinion, were more restrained than they thought they would be. In fact, I think they really thought there was going to be a big, huge riot. They're going to burn the Capitol, and they were going to prove how horrible MAGA and Republicans and all this were. Once and for all, we're going to prove how bad they are.
Yeah. And I think it failed.
Yeah.
The thing that I find interesting, and it's just something simple.
Yeah.
Whenever the radical left gets together, radical liberals get together, they trash everything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it is filled with trash like you wouldn't believe. People are yelling and screaming hateful things at everybody.
Even the climate activists leave a mess.
Oh, yeah. They don't care anything about climate. It's just all a ruse. But I watched, I don't know, 10 or 20 videos of liberals that went to a Trump rally or to a get-together like that, and They said, it's so clean. People don't throw their trash on the ground.
Yeah.
And they're so nice. I told them I'm a Democrat, and they say, good for you.
Yeah.
And he says, no one yelled at me and told me I couldn't be there. And I watched a couple where a black guy
Yeah.
was wanting to go. He was a black gay guy. And he says, they kept telling me they were going to kill me over there because I'm black and I'm gay. And I went there, and they didn't have a problem with me being black or gay. And since then, he's changed to more of a conservative and left.
I think I remember that video. A guy grabbed him around the arm, around the shoulders, and said, "Come on, brother, let's go in here and see what's going on."
Yeah. So it comes down to, it depends on the people you're trying to incite and what morals they have to begin with.
Sure. Well, the liberal progressive mindset, the mindset, in my opinion, of the devil is one and the same. It's of destruction and deceit and things of that nature. And I look at how the devil thought that he won so many times.
Oh, yeah.
And he thinks he's going to have the upper hand. But, just like I was talking with a conference this last weekend, we actually are fighting from a place of we've already won the battle.
Yes.
Victory is already done. It's not that we're trying and striving for victory. It's complete.
Right. It's absolutely done. I think it says in the Bible, I was going to try to find it real quick. I think it's Galatians 4. It says, if they would have known, if the powers that be would have known that Jesus being nailed to the cross would have been their demise, they wouldn't have done it.
Well, I personally think that Satan, when he fell and when he caused Adam and Eve to fall, I think he thought he'd won something.
Yes. Yep.
And then when he polluted the bloodlines, he thought he'd won something, and then the flood comes. And then when he thought that he had gotten mankind all off base, then Jesus comes and he says, okay, I'm going to kill him.
Yep.
And he thought he had done something, and then all of a sudden, resurrection.
Yep.
And that's not what I planned on happening. And so, like I say, we fight from a battle place of victory has already happened.
Exactly. And the thing that we have to remember is God is in control.
Yeah.
Through this whole time, God was in control throughout all of history. And things have gone the way God wanted them to go.
Yep.
It's going to be that way in the future too. And this is the time to check yourself.
Yeah.
To find out where do you stand with God.
Yeah. Well, I think that everything has happened for the sole reason of bringing people to Christ.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And to saving people. He's not willing that any should perish.
No, not at all.
So everything you see, you think all this evilness, all this badness, what has it done? Well, it's driven people to salvation.
Right.
And I think that's the end goal, is that all who will come to him.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us this week.